JJ one time told me that he read this book by some management guru, and they said, "Oh, gee, Likens did that. Oh, gee, Likens did that," but I can't remember what they were. But basically, I think that we at all times tried to treat all people fairly. I think that we a key element is that the the company was always managed by full-time employees, and that's all that we did. I mentioned that Tom Langpap didn't like the management structure at Southern Cal, and that was because it had outside ownership. And there was a relatively successful organization called the Irvine Consulting Group that was put together by, interestingly enough, Greg Durkee's father, a former Southern Cal guy. He was a marketing guy, and he would hire people to try and manage the company, do the engineering and geological managing of the company, not compensate them well, try to keep it for himself, and they'd get fed up and leave. And when the recession hit in 1991, the Irvine Consulting Group disappeared, just went away. And in fact, among the problems that management after I was gone had with Colin Young was that Colin was running the environmental group at the time. Colin was into making shirts or into marketing tequila or whatever else, rather than spending the 60 hours a week that's involved to run the company. And I remember telling Mike Williams years and years ago, I said, Mike, you'll never be the CEO of this company, because the CEO of this company has to be a professional. He's got to be an engineer or a geologist. So that was part of it. And part of it was maintaining extremely high professional standards, not only in terms of the quality of the work product that we put out, but our ability to communicate with our clients. Communicate. Well, I was going to say that communication skills were very important. Tom and Mike Hart and myself are all excellent writers. I think that and Mike Chapin as well. Chapin is one of the smartest guys I know, but the ability to put coherent thoughts down on a piece of paper. But I think the final deal was just treating everybody fairly, and the number of people that left Geocon to go to work for another competitor is really, really small compared to virtually any other firm. And the willingness of Tom and myself to diversify the ownership and bring other people in, he and I made a pretty good group of people, pretty damn wealthy, just by our willingness to pass on something that could have been construed as ours. And that's an important part. We made a point to put in our mission statement, when we finally got around to writing a mission statement, that having a good time was part of our corporate philosophy. We had softball teams, and we had Christmas parties and beach parties and employee recognition dinners. We gave away a lot of money, but we were making a lot of money, and so it was worthwhile. And so I think that's part of it. I know several of my contemporaries who started their own businesses that couldn't survive because they didn't have the capability of releasing their authority. They weren't able to bring in young associates, and they'd think they'd have somebody, and after a while the guy would get tired of it, tired of the wait, tired of the lack of respect, tired of whatever, and those firms didn't make it, even though the individuals running them might have been very, very competent people from a professional perspective, but they didn't understand the personal aspects. Maybe we're touchy-feely, I don't like that term, but we did a lot of that. We did a lot of supporting employees when they had problems. We had a receptionist one time who really went off the deep end, and we stayed with her. She was in the loony bin for a few weeks, and when she got out, she had a job, and she was still at least semi-wacko, but we didn't we didn't let her go. Bill Lehman got hurt.
Stop it if you
We
want.
stayed with Bill. Yeah, you know, that was basically it. But the probably the key thing was we just had a lot of fun, and part of the success, I think, has to be attributed to just dumb luck, you know, being in the right place at the right time. But by the same token, Tom and I were extremely competent guys, and my theory with respect to at least our local success is that Tom and I were head and shoulders above the capabilities of any of our competitors, and it was sort of like shooting fish in a barrel at that point. So.
Well, I was going to ask you two things. The first is, Joe always talks about the mole rat thing. Is that?
That's a Chapin.
That's a Chapin thing. Okay.
The mole man?
The mole men?
No. Mike used to say that he's always, you have to bring people in and roll around in the sawdust like the naked mole rat.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, that I don't know if that's the same concept. But another thing that we did was that in our professional training of our engineers and geologists, early on, back in the 70s and 80s, we could do this. We would hire a college graduate, engineer or geologist, and put them out in the field for sometimes years. Dave Evans was a field tech 4 years, maybe. JJ, probably at least 2. John Hood spent a lot of time in there. And the only way to learn our business is from the ground up. And maybe that's the naked mole rat rolling around in the sawdust. But it means just going out and getting dirty. We'd send our engineers and geologists out to physically drill the holes in the ground themselves, then to assign the lab testing, and then to write the report, and then to be involved in the field work during construction. That was something that I learned from Al Gabaldo, and I'm convinced it's the only way to do the business. And it's interesting because in the later years, we began to hire more and more master's degree people and less bachelor's degrees. And those guys wouldn't do it. They'd go to work for somebody else that would allow them to be an engineer rather than stoop so low as to go out and do hard physical work. And let me tell you something, being a field technician is a dirty job. Not only do you get dirty, but the role that you need to play, the responsibility that you have coupled with your lack of authority, very, very difficult. And to have done that and then to do the job as a professional engineer or geologist